After the video, we have now the opportunity to reflect on what we've seen. I have a guest here at the studio, Stingo Hürdermann. Welcome, Stingo.
Thank you for having me.
Stingo works for the VMRG, which is the Dutch branch association for the facade industry. And Stingo works on implementing circular economy principles to the facades industry. Stingo, maybe to give a good introduction, can you tell us about the industry you work in and what the role of your branch organization is?
Absolutely, yes. The facade industry is basically the buildings who are responsible for delivering the building skin. So everywhere around us, if you take a look at the buildings, that's basically the parts of the objects that our companies deliver and build. Our companies are companies who are engineering, producing, and construct the whole building envelope. And we as branch organization are responsible for all kinds of topics, but basically focusing mainly on innovation, development, education, to improve the whole business or the whole industry and take a look how we can create new opportunities for them.
The industry is mature, we have seen that in the video. High logistics, robot manufacturing, so a mature and complex industry. And you showed us an example of aluminium recycling. Now we know that recycling is more on the lower side of our circularity measures that we have. So why is your approach adding something new and helping to develop a circular facade industry?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. For us, is recycling just a piece of the bigger picture or the bigger puzzle we've created or we developed about the topic circular economy. When you take a look at the aluminium loop in the facade industry, then we see that it costs a lot of energy to create new aluminium out of bauxite. Bauxite we don't have in Europe, but at the end of life, about 80% of all the aluminium goes to countries outside of Europe. So we as industry are in the traditional way, we're only in the beginning of a building. So we create, we engineer, and we build the building envelope, but afterwards we don't have any, we're not in contact anymore with our products. So when we want to keep the materials in our loop, we need to get grip on them. So what we basically did is we create a system where we, together with the whole supply chain, create a system where we take back the materials, take back the products, and where we can keep the quality of these materials in those loops.
Mm-hmm. So I understand that facades, you cannot make them out of any scrap aluminum, but you need special alloys to be able to do that.
Yeah, so for example, it's easy to make out of a profile, for example, an aluminium can for Coca-Cola or whatever, but to create a profile out of a can, that's almost impossible. The only way to do that is to add new primary aluminium to it, and that's not what you want. So what we focus on is to make out of a profile from a facade, create a new one. So keep the quality of the materials as high as possible.
So you're cycling on the material level, but I understand you also have measures to really extend the life of facade. So target the lifetime when the facade is built until it's scrapped. So to improve on that cycle in the aspect of circularity.
Yes, yes, yes. We developed all kind of projects to make the bigger picture, to fill it in with all kind of projects and innovations. Because for us to focus more on the service around our products, it's really important to know what we delivered and where it is. And for example, when you go to the supermarket and you grab a bag of chips, you immediately know what it is and where it came from. But when you build a building or a facade, for example, after a year or maybe even in the construction period, you don't even know what kind of materials are used, what kind of products are used, where did it come from, what kind of maintenance is needed to extension the lifetime of the product and keep it as long as possible in that loop. But also at the end of life, when it comes, it's at the end of the life of the product, nobody knows what happened with the product, so that's the reason mainly that it ends as garbage. But what we want is to give an identity to the products we deliver. So we, for example, developed a platform where we can track and trace all the products we deliver as industry, so that we know what we delivered, where it is, and where it came from, and that we can make better calculation what will be the value of the products at the end of the life. So when we take it back, we know what kind of alloys we take back and how we can reuse them as materials or as products in the whole process. So that's just one of the examples we're working on. Another one is that we're working on a project where we implement all kinds of sensors, and we use drones to make 3D digital twins of the buildings. And based on image recognition, we're able to predict what will happen with the facade. And that's just an example of the projects we're currently working on. And that's also focused on how can we more focus on the service on our products, so that we can create more value with the products we deliver, but also take back these materials and make better estimates what we can do with it afterwards.
So technology solutions, basically to keep track of a product during its life cycle. I mean, we should mention though that normally a facade product gets sold, then it becomes part of a building, it's owned by an owner, and then the relation of the builder or the original manufacturer is, basically remote to your product, and you want to keep in contact during the life cycle. I think that's a very, it's a new approach. I can imagine you're facing a lot of challenges to be able to implement that in your industry.
Absolutely. Nobody said that it should be easy, but I think the most difficult part of it is the whole change of mindset. So we're working to a whole new business model. As you said, normally we sell our product and then we're gone after we bring it to the building site and we construct the facade and then we're out of the picture. But what we want is to keep responsible for the products and the service we as industry deliver, but we also want to take responsibility for the take-back period, so for the end-of-life period and the high quality of the materials we used. And yeah, I think the most difficult in that one is the whole new business model you create as industry, but also as a company, of course.
Mm-hmm. So maybe to summarize, it's not only the product itself or the technical innovation. At the same time, we need to look at business models to be able to implement circular measures.
Absolutely, because the easiest way to save money is to stop losing it, and I think that's the best way to keep the world as it is right now, but also to make money with the products and the service you deliver today.
Thank you very much for answering these questions, Tingo. Thank you for watching this interview. We have seen an interesting approach, which I believe is exemplary. It's about retrieving the value of materials and keep them circulating. We understand that recycling is the last option for a circular approach, but sometimes it's the only one. To really have an impact on extending the life cycle of products is difficult, but measures are on the way. Anyhow, it shows the need for design solutions that incorporate the end-of-life scenarios of products. Also keep in mind that aluminum is just one of the technical building materials that we use. And that might give you an idea about the challenges that the industry faces when making the shift towards a more circular built environment. The challenges, but also the opportunities.